From Cotton to Crypto, Building Black Wealth with Bitcoin.
Yeah, quite a title.
Right.
Yeah.
Straight away, it tells you we're looking at, well, a pretty deep connection being drawn between money, freedom, the future.
And specifically how Bitcoin is framed in this material as a potential tool for the Black community to build wealth.
Exactly. This presentation, it makes some very specific arguments linking that history of financial exclusion with, modern digital currency.
It does. So our mission here is really just to walk you through the key points and arguments from this source. We're not adding our own opinions, just unpacking what it says.
Yeah, what it says Bitcoin is, how it supposedly works, why the source thinks it's relevant for Black wealth creation.
The potential upsides, the downsides it mentions, what makes it unique according to them, and importantly, how they suggest you might even start looking into it.
Our goal is just to understand the perspective laid out here. So let's jump right in. The presentation kicks off with the basics. What is Bitcoin, according to them?
They define it pretty simply. It's digital money, money used online.
And a key point they make is it's not printed like dollars. It doesn't come from a government mint or a central bank.
Right. It lives entirely online, on the internet.
And functionally, they say you can send it to anyone, anywhere, directly.
And this part seems crucial to their argument, the no middlemen aspect.
Yeah, they explicitly say no banks, no middlemen, just you and your money, which, immediately makes you wonder.
How does that actually work? If there's no bank, what's making it happen?
Exactly. And the presentation brings in the technology behind it, blockchain.
Right. The source explains blockchain as this specific type of digital ledger or network.
And its job, according to the material, is to keep a record of every single transaction, safely and publicly.
Yeah, publicly is key there. They use a pretty good analogy, actually. Imagine a giant notebook that everyone can see, a shared ledger. But once something's written in it, no one can erase it or change it. Ah, okay. So that's how they explain the blockchain, this transparent sort of tamper-proof record.
That's the idea presented. Who sent what to whom, all logged permanently.
Okay, now this is where that title, From Cotton to Crypto, really starts to connect. The presentation makes a strong historical case for why Bitcoin might matter specifically for the Black community.
Yes, it argues pretty directly that, historically, traditional financial systems, banks, lending institutions have actively excluded Black people.
And that this exclusion limited the ability to build wealth, to pass it on.
Right. They don't just make the claim generally. They point to specific examples mentioned in the source material.
Like redlining.
Exactly. Redlining, difficulties getting loans compared to others, systemic issues leading to lower pay, generational issues.
So the core claim woven through this material is that because of that specific history,
Bitcoin offers something fundamentally different. A path, they argue, to participate and build wealth outside those traditional systems, without needing the permission, essentially, of the institutions that, according to the source, excluded them before.
That's the argument, and they connect this history directly to the present day, talking about the wealth gap.
Yeah. The source points out the stark reality. Black families in the U.S., on average, hold significantly less wealth than white families.
And crucially, the presentation frames this not as some accident, but as a direct outcome of those historical unfair systems they outlined.
So if that's the problem diagnosed by the source, how is Bitcoin positioned as part of a potential solution?
Well, it's presented as a chance to build something new, something potentially more fair and accessible because it operates on different rails, so to speak.
Which naturally leads to the big question.
Yeah.
Okay, but can you actually make money with it?
The presentation tackles that head on. Yes, it says the potential is there.
What?
But it comes with significant risks. They mention the stories, the anecdotes of early buyers who saw huge returns.
The millionaire stories, yeah.
Right. But they immediately pivot to the volatility. The price swings, it goes up, it goes down a lot.
So it's not presented as a guaranteed win.
Not at all. The emphasis in the material is heavily on education. Learning is key. Their message is very much knowledge is power, especially with something this new and volatile.
And they also make a point that it's not just individuals interested anymore.
Yeah, the source mentions that big money is now involved. Banks, hedge funds, even retirement companies are apparently buying Bitcoin now.
And the advice the source gives there is pretty blunt. Follow the money.
Essentially, yeah. If the rich are investing, we need to understand why. It's framed as a prompt to investigate why institutions are getting involved.
Okay, so taking a step back, what does this presentation say makes Bitcoin fundamentally different from, say, dollars or stocks.
Yeah.
They list some key features.
They do. First, decentralized. We touched on this. No single entity in charge. No CEO, no central bank.
Decisions are made by the network itself is the idea.
According to the source, yes. Second, it's global. It works across borders, anywhere with internet.
Okay. Less friction for international stuff, maybe?
That seems to be the implication. And third, security. They highlight that your money is secured by your own private key.
Which is like a super password.
Sort of, but more fundamental. It's cryptographic. The source stresses that you control the key, you control the funds directly on the blockchain. It's a different security model than trusting a third party, like a bank.
So someone's listening and thinking, okay, this sounds interesting, maybe complicated. How does the presentation suggest getting started?
They actually offer some very practical advice. They stress you don't need a lot of money.
You don't have to be rich to dip your toe in.
Exactly. The material suggests you could start small, buy just $5 or $10 worth.
Just to learn the process, see how it works.
Yeah, hands-on learning. And for learning smartly, they suggest talking to trusted people who already understand it, maybe taking classes or finding reliable educational resources.
And asking questions.
Definitely. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's a big theme.
So, pulling it all together, the presentation seems to build towards this central promise of financial freedom.
That's the term they use, yes. The source argues that through Bitcoin, there's a potential avenue for Black individuals and communities to
build wealth,
gain more control over their financial future, and importantly, establish something they can pass on. Generational wealth.
The presentation also included some visuals, right? Charts showing the price.
It did. They showed Bitcoin's historical price, which, has had a generally strong upward trend over the long run, despite the volatility we mentioned.
Important to remember that past performance isn't future performance, of course.
Absolutely. And they also included some future price projections from a group called ARK Invest looking out to 2030.
Oh, yeah. What did those look like?
Pretty striking numbers. Again, these are just forecasts presented in the source material, not guarantees. But they showed a bear case around $300,000 per Bitcoin.
Okay.
A base case near $710,000. And a really optimistic bull case potentially hitting $1.5 million.
Wow. Okay, those are some big potential numbers presented there. And finally, did the source offer concrete next steps for people interested?
It did. A clear call to action.
What was that?
They invite people to join a specific conversation they hold on Sundays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
And they provided a link to join an organization or network called the CPIN. The link was https://thecpi.network.
Got it. So wrapping up our deep dive into this from cotton to crypto presentation, the main thrust seems to be identify this history of financial exclusion and then present Bitcoin, this decentralized digital money, as a potential tool, a different kind of tool for building wealth and achieving, as they put it, financial freedom.
And it ends with that strong call. It's time to flip the script on money.
Right. So a final thought for you, the listener, based purely on what this source presented. If you accept the historical context they laid out and you consider the unique, decentralized nature of Bitcoin they described operating outside those traditional systems, how might assets like this actually change the game? Not just offer another path, but fundamentally alter how communities, especially those historically marginalized, pursue financial stability and build wealth for the next generation. Something to think about.